adventurers, my name is Alexandra with the Bucket List Mermaid, and it is my goal to help you conquer everything on your adventure bucket list and maybe take some great photos while doing it. Now today we are going to be talking about something super iconic, and it is something that you are going to be able to do as an excursion from an Alaskan cruise, and that is kayaking, more specifically kayaking in Ketchikan. So I initially went on an Alaskan cruise in October, right at the end of the season, and this unfortunately did mean that I didn't have a lot of options for excursions when I was in Ketchikan. However, they still did have sea kayaking, and it has always been on my bucket list to go sea kayaking, and what better place to go sea kayaking than Ketchikan, Alaska. Now the coastline around Ketchikan is just steeped in culture and history, and one of the reasons I decided to go kayaking in Ketchikan is you get to see a lot of this culture. I saw totem poles, I saw wildlife, and I learned some about Alaskan culture. Overall, I thought it was really great, and it was a very good addition and check off to my bucket list. But now let's talk about how you can add and check this off your bucket list as well. Now first off, before we start getting into the nitty-gritty details of kayaking in Ketchikan, if you are looking to book a tour, I will link my full Ketchikan kayaking guide down in the description, and you can go to my website, thebucketlistmermaid.com, and you can read all about this. You can save it, you can bookmark it. It's basically a full guide for if you do want to go kayaking in Ketchikan, and I have linked some of the best rated tours on there for you to book directly on. Now, first off, when to go kayaking in Ketchikan, because the seasons can change your experience drastically. The most popular time to go kayaking in Ketchikan is going to be summer. It is peak season, so it might be a little bit more crowded. However, you're going to get extended daylight hours and maybe some more chances to view that wildlife. For example, you might be able to spot humpback whales, orcas, eagles, or maybe some cute little otters. Another reason to go during the summer is the coastline will be lush. This makes it a perfect opportunity for photography. I actually went in fall, and there were a few good and bad things about this. I didn't see a lot of fall foliage in there, even though it was prime time, so I wouldn't really be expecting a lot of fall foliage if I'm being completely honest. And also you have to watch out for rain. Now I really lucked out in this department because they said that it was raining and it was a little bit rough seas. However, when I went, it was like our only day of sunshine, and those waters were so calm that it literally looked like glass. So you might get lucky if you are going in the fall. And in winter, it's gonna be cold, but it's gonna be so peaceful if you can brave that cold. Just keep in mind that the Alaskan season normally runs from like April to September to October, so the cruise lines might not be running during this time. Now let's talk about the best places that you can go kayaking in Ketchikan. Now I decided to go sea kayaking the Tatoosh Islands, and the only locations that were actually offered when I was on the cruise ship was Connell Lake, Eagle Island, and the Tatoosh Islands. I wanted to go sea kayaking, so the Tatoosh Islands won, and honestly I had no complaints. It was absolutely beautiful. We were just like sea kayaking around all of this beautiful nature, and it kind of felt like we were in the middle of nowhere, like there were no roads or anything. So if you want like a more off the grid experience, I would recommend the Tatoosh Islands. Now one thing that I do like about kayaking in this area is it is pretty good for beginners. We were in a tandem kayak. I went with my mom, and I did like this just because you do have a buddy. My upper body strength kind of sucks, and I haven't been kayaking a lot. I've been paddleboarding, however kayaking not so much, but I think that this was a really great beginner opportunity and an introduction into kayaking. Now if you are a more seasoned kayaker, there are some places in Ketchikan where you can go, specifically on the coastline. I do think that if the waters were a little bit rougher in the Tatoosh Islands, I think it would be more for seasoned kayakers, so just keep that in mind. If you want more ideas, I would definitely head to that article because I do mention a couple more ideas if these are not satisfying for your bucket list. Now let's just talk about some safety tips for kayaking just to make your bucket list experience as amazing as possible. So if you are going by yourself, which is totally fine if you're an avid kayaker, personally I don't think I would, but just because I'm not an avid kayaker, so I enjoyed the guide. But if you are going for yourself, here are just some tips and just some reminders just to stay safe. Now check the weather forecast, especially if you are going in spring and fall, as the weather has a tendency to change rapidly, and you just want to make sure that obviously there's no like lightning or anything like that. Next, wear a life jacket. Even if you're a good swimmer, it's just a good safety tip. And also dress appropriately. It was pretty cold when I went in fall, and I really appreciated all of the extra layers that I had, including a hat. Now next, this is a very important if you are going solo, just understanding the tides and currents. This is why if you haven't been to a certain location in Ketchikan, I would recommend either going with a guide or going with a buddy who understands where the tides and currents are, just so you don't get swept away. There will be no sweeping away on this bucket list adventure, no thank you. And also maybe consider bringing some safety equipment like a whistle, a VHF radio, or maybe a mobile phone in a waterproof case, just so if anything happens you can reach help. Also, stay hydrated and bring snacks. You always want some good snacks on an adventure, and nothing ruins an adventure like some good old dehydration. And next, plan your route. Again, just understanding those tides and currents and then using that to plan a good route is going to be key and essential to your safety here. And next, stay close to the shore. If you're on a cruise ship, don't become the cruise ship. You're not meant to go out into those deep waters. And also, if possible, again, bring a buddy. Specifically, maybe a buddy who knows their way around these shores if you do not. And next, respect wildlife. We saw so much wildlife when we were kayaking in Ketchikan. I literally brought my camera. It was so scary, but I had my camera with me while we were kayaking. I actually photographed a bald eagle from the kayak, and I also photographed a seal. And in summer, the wildlife opportunities are going to dramatically increase, so just respect their space, get a good photo, and leave them alone. And then know your limits. I thought it was very interesting how I was ready to go. I was literally just I want to go for hours and hours. And then they started turning around, and I was like, no, please, I want to stay out here for as long as I possibly can. But then I actually started fatiguing, so just make sure that you turn around not when you're burnt out and fatigued, because or else that way back is going to be a little interesting. So now I'm just going to quickly talk about my experience with booking an excursion directly through the cruise ship. So I ended up going on an Alaskan cruise in October because my grandpa wanted to see the Northern Lights. Spoiler alert, we did not see the Northern Lights. It was very disappointing. However, we still had a lot of fun kayaking. So basically we got off of the cruise ship in the port of Ketchikan, and there was this really cool depot. It was this huge warehouse building with a lot of souvenirs, and it was very well organized, at least for the cruise ship that I was going on, and we had no problem finding the people. And then they had a little meeting place, and then we hopped on a bus. The drive wasn't too long to get there. She even had some snacks because it was around Halloween, so it was fun. And then we went to another location, and we got all geared up, and then we went on a boat, and I think the boat was actually longer than the bus ride, but we ended up going on the boat. The boat ride was really fun. It was really cold, so I was glad that I had a lot of layers. And then we went to one of the Tatoosh Islands. They unloaded the kayaks. We explored a little bit. As I said, I brought my camera, so I photographed all the kayaks, some wildlife, some trees. It was beautiful. And then we got paired up. They did offer us one of those waterproof saddle things, and we were kind of going back and forth on whether or not we wanted it. You want it. You definitely want it, unless you want to get wet. So definitely use that when they offer it to you. We ended up going out for a few hours, turning around, taking some pictures, seeing some wildlife. We saw some sea stars on some rocks. I said we saw some bald eagles. It was absolutely beautiful. The sun was shining. The water looked like glass. Could not ask for a better experience. Once we got back, we got out of there. They made us some hot chocolate and cookies. These guides, man, they really just take care of you in this situation here. And then once we were done, we went on the boat, saw some more bald eagles, went back to their little headquarters there, hopped on the bus, went back to that depot, and barely made it back to our ship. Was very glad that we did an excursion with the ship. This is important because I think if that were with another company and we were kind of rushing to get back, I think that would have been a very different experience. So I would consider directly booking with the ship because they can't leave you. So what do you think? Would you go kayaking in Ketchikan, or would you do something else? In that guide that I wrote that I'll link in the description, I also quickly at the end go over all of the other popular excursions in Ketchikan. If you are going in summer, maybe look at that and just make sure that this is what you want to do. But I'd say overall, if you are average physical level, you love nature, you love getting off the grid, this is definitely a excursion to consider on your Alaskan cruise. I want to hear your thoughts. Definitely comment below if you've done this before, if you would want to do this, if you'd want to do a different excursion. I want to hear your thoughts. And if all this information helped you, if you were inspired, I would really love it if you would just hit that subscribe button so that you can keep up to date on all of the adventurous content and guides. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you next time, and stay adventurous.